Okay, if you are a website owner, then you must watch this video. So basically, this is quite a busy week for Google. First, they have their problem with AI overview, but now they have another big problem, perhaps even bigger, because their secret sauce of Google's algorithm has just leaked, and now there are a lot of people questioning Google's practice on its search engine. And some of it is not really surprising. A lot of SEO researchers have done their homework to basically reverse engineer Google's algorithm, and they have found some conflicting ideas about what they found and what Google says publicly, and now with the leak they have their belief justified. So in this video I'm going to show you my top 10 picks or top 10 information from the Google's leak, and I don't want to present it as a simple list video. Instead, I have created a simple quiz that you can follow throughout the video. So without further ado, let's get into it. True or false, Google has over 250 ranking factors on its search algorithm. So I think this is a pretty simple question, and I believe a lot of you will get it right. And the answer is, yeah, it is true. In fact, it's actually a lot more than 250. So according to that leak, there is over 250 modules, and combined together they have over 14,000 attributes or SEO ranking factors, and I think this is just a lot for any human to comprehend. I think this is pretty much designed for machine, and we only need to know just a fraction of it to help our website rank better. So let's move on with the next question. Okay, true or false, you must write 1,000 plus words articles to rank on Google. Okay, this is actually quite a common knowledge a few years ago. So many SEO researchers actually found that websites or pages with 2,000 plus words generally ranks higher on Google. But what the leak says about that? True or false, you must write 1,000 plus word articles to rank? Well, it's false. Actually, you don't have to write a very long piece of article. As someone that has been writing hundreds of short articles, by that I mean just 200, maybe 300 words, yeah, I can confidently say that you can rank with whatever number of words in your article. The key here is to make sure that your content is answering the user intent and make sure it is high quality. Alright, let's move on. True or false, if a user spends longer on a page, it is a good indication. So this is something called dwell time. Basically, if someone visits a website from search engines and they spend, I don't know, a few minutes on that page, that would be a good indication that this is a good website that deserves the rank. True or false? It is true, actually. It is quite reasonable, because if a user is not satisfied with the answer, they will just leave the page immediately. This is something called focus sticking in SEO, and this is a really bad indication for your website. On the contrary, if the user spends quite a long time on your page, like maybe engaging on the page or giving a comment or register an account or buying something on that page, then that would mean that this is the page that the user is looking for. So yeah, make sure that your content is as engaging as possible. Let's move on. New sites can rank just as well as old websites. So I think this is something that Google has been preaching quite a lot, but from my experience, new websites are usually struggling to rank higher on Google. However, what the leak says about that? Is that true that new sites can rank just as well as old sites? This is something that Google publicly says, but is that even true? Well, it's false, actually. So according to the leak, there is a domain age factor that would affect the ranking. If you have a website that's only a few weeks old and you're trying to compete with a website that is over 5 years old, then it would be almost impossible for a lot of keywords. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, true or false, author information is a ranking factor? Well, I hope you already locked your answer by now. The answer is, yeah, it is true. Google confirms that they are storing and tracking the author information as part of EAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. These are important metrics that will determine how credible the article really is. And this basically confirms that your activity on the internet is essentially being tracked, which is kind of creepy, to tell whether or not you are the kind of person that is trustworthy. As far as I know, Google is tracking your online activity in general, like maybe you have some social media account, and if you're sharing your knowledge about that topic that you happen to write on your website, that could be a plus point, because now Google knows that you are a credible person about this particular subject, and therefore you should be able to rank higher on the search engine. So basically, try to be a helpful and good individual on the internet, and it will help you along the way. Let's move on. All right, true or false, some topics may be treated differently. So basically, Google says that they never touch anything on the search result. However, some people don't really take Google's word for it. What do you think about that? Do you think that some topics might be treated differently on Google, or it was just some bias or misinformation? Well, the answer is true. Yeah, Google actually treats some topics differently, but I think they do have quite solid argument for it. Some topics are quite sensitive, and you want to make sure that the user is being presented with the most factual information, like maybe about COVID-19 or election, which means that some topics related to that might not show all the website that is covering that topic. And interestingly, Google actually has a curated list about what websites could appear on the search result on these sensitive topics, which is probably a good idea for keeping everyone safe. However, people on Google could be biased towards a specific view, and therefore they probably will only include some websites that they like the most, and therefore it's not revealing the whole truth because the website or pages they are looking for are not available on Google. Anyway, let's jump into the next question. True or false that backlink is not an important ranking factor? In recent years, Google have been downplaying the role of backlink as a ranking factor. In fact, if there is 3 top ranking factors, backlink is not going to be one of them. It's still pretty good for some people, but according to Google, it is not anymore. So what does the leak say about that? Well, according to that leak, backlink is still very important ranking factor. And this is quite interesting because backlink actually stems from the page rank system that Google used more than 2 decades ago. And somehow this simple ranking factor is just pretty good and still being used today. And I think I understand why Google never emphasized on backlink, because if people just focusing more on backlink, then they probably will spend less effort and resources on content, and therefore people that are using Google are unhappy with the search result because these websites are ranked higher because they have much better backlink instead of having good quality content. Yeah, maybe in the Google's view, it is the necessary lie, but I don't think a lot of people will agree with that. Anyway, let's move on again. True or false that Google didn't use site authority for ranking? According to the leak, yeah, Google actually used some sort of site authority ranking factor. I don't know if Google actually using the score from SEMrush or from Moz, but it's likely that Google has its own site authority ranking system, and it will determine how good or how deserving a website could rank on any given keyword. Yeah, despite of publicly denying that they are not using site authority as a ranking factor, the leak says otherwise. Let's move on. True or false that subdomains are treated as the same website? And this is actually quite an interesting problem because a lot of websites want to have a separate section of their business, but they don't want to be completely separated in a way like when you have a business, you have a website, and then you open another branch of the business, but you still want it to be related to that, and you want to get all the SEO code transferred right away. So when the new subdomain website creating content, it could rank easily on Google. Google says that subdomains and subdirectories are treated the same, meaning that they would be treated as the same website as the domain website. So true or false? Well, according to the leak, it is false. Actually, subdomains are going to be treated as a separate website, and this is why a lot of SEO researchers are struggling to rank a subdomain website, simply because essentially they're just trying to build a new website with zero authority. The key takeaways is if you want to have a separate section of your website, then make sure it is subdirectory. Alright, let's move on. True or false that exact match domains have better ranking chance? Let's say you are selling virtual headset and then you are making a new website that's called virtualheadset.com. That should rank much better on Google for the keyword virtual headset, simply because the keyword is exactly on the domain name. Is that true or false? Well, the answer is false. No, you cannot just make a domain that is exactly the same as the keyword you're targeting for, and then hoping it would rank way better on Google, because Google actually understands this and they've been demoting websites that abusing the domain name by adding their keyword right into the domain name. So yeah, never create a website based on the keyword you're targeting. Okay, let's jump on to another one. True or false that Google can tell the effort that you have put into an article? So basically, Google can actually tell the effort you made for an article. And this proves my point about AI article. A lot of people got confused when it comes to making or humanizing AI article. They thought that after they are creating an AI article using ChatGPT or Gemini, then they should send that article to AI humanizer to make it not detectable as an AI article. But that missed the point, because the whole idea of humanizing is to make people would like to enjoy or read the article. And by that, I mean you can add some content like video, photos, infographics, tables. You can also add some opinion piece in your article, and that will not only make your article a lot more human, but apparently Google will appreciate that and will make your website rank higher. And if you want to learn more about how to humanize AI content, check out this video and I'll see you there.